What's up everyone, it's Sam. Today I want to go through a little bit of what a 401k is and then talk about how to invest in a 401k and what to look out for. So I'll put the timestamp below telling you when I start going through what exactly to look for in your 401k in the funds that you're going to invest in. But if you want to watch exactly what 401k is, why it's beneficial, you can just watch all the way through. So I have a 401k set up through work. I invest just the minimum amount to get the match. So a lot of companies will give you a dollar for dollar match or something like that. So they want to encourage you to save for retirement. So they will pay extra money towards your retirement if you put money into it also. What a 401k is just something set up through your employer that is a retirement fund, and it helps you lower your taxable income typically. So you put in, let's say you put in $5,000 and you make $50,000, then it lowers your taxable income by $5,000 with the federal government. So you can save on some taxes and you can save for retirement. So that is why a lot of people use that instead of like a brokerage account or something that doesn't affect your taxes. A lot of companies have it set up where you can figure out or determine what kind of funds you want to be invested in, how much you want to deposit. Some companies will let you even determine if you want to put your savings or your investments in before tax or after tax. So I'm allowed to, instead of taking that tax deduction, I can pay taxes on it in a Roth 401k, and then when I take it out, eventually it won't be taxed. I won't go into too much of that, but there are a lot of different things that your company can offer you. So if you want more in-depth knowledge on that, let me know, or just you can look it up or ask. You can probably ask your HR person. I'm not sure how much they would know about it. So this is a look at my 401k account. So balance has gone down a little bit recently with everything going on in the markets right now. But I just put in 4%, Comerica matches 100%, and then I get a bonus of that 100% basically. So so overall about 8% of my income goes in there. So in here you can go to investments. It'll be different for everyone how you find this, but what you can do is you can pick out what you want to invest in. So a way that I've heard this described, because some people think that 401k is the investment, a 401k is the vehicle, and then you invest in it. So imagine it as like a pop can, where the 401k is the metal pop can, but the pop in it can be a different kind. So it doesn't have to be Coke in a pop can, it can be Sprite or something else. So that's what it is. You can invest different ways within the 401k. So this is how I have mine set up. I'll show you this first before I go through all the different kinds. I have 70% is supposed, or no, actually 80%, I've changed it. 80% is supposed to be in a large index fund, which is just the 500 largest US companies. I invest 80% of what goes in there into those, and then 10% into mid-cap index funds. So that's generally companies between 2 billion and 10 billion market cap in size. So still really large companies, but smaller than, let's say, Apple, Microsoft, stuff like that. Usually they have more room to grow, but they're a little bit riskier. And then I have small cap index funds. So this is for companies under 2 billion market cap in size. So again, more room to grow, but not as stable. So I'm just gonna go through and pretend like I'm changing how I'm gonna invest. A lot of these 401ks will set you up with a certain contribution and then a certain fund that you're gonna be invested in. Usually you can change it though. I changed mine because I wanted to pick out my own individual funds. And I'll go through exactly why you might want to do that for you in the future. So as you can see, all my, well, not all of it because there's a little bit of bonds here, but nearly all of my investments are in stocks. So stocks are just ownership in the companies. Bonds are something that companies issue out that give a certain interest rate, and they're debt instruments. So the company needs money, they issue bonds, and then you buy the bonds and get a fixed rate of return. They're not always fixed though, because people will buy them from you when you sell them, and they can go a little bit, they can change a little bit, but they're much more stable than equities. So your company might be like mine. It offers maybe 25 or so different kinds of funds. So I'm just gonna walk through exactly kind of what I look for, what I used to look for when I started getting into this, and some general guidelines. So Comerica Destination Retirement. This is a lot like some of these. So these destination retirements, this is generally what they put you in when you sign up for the company 401k. Depending on how old you are, they'll assume maybe you'll retire at 65, and then they'll put you in one of these. So I started right around 2018, and I was 22, so they put me in something that was 40 years out. They put me in this one. Don't pay attention to these because I think these are off. When I tried to click on it, it wouldn't show me it. But let's say they put me in this one. Generally, if you're further out from retirement, they'll put you in a fund that has a lot more equities and a lot less bonds. That's because equities typically will appreciate or gain in value a lot more than bonds over time. Bonds typically don't pay as much, but they're more for stability. So if you're going to retire next year and you have more bonds, then if the market crashes, hopefully your account balance doesn't go down as much, compared to if the market crashes and you're in all equities, then you might lose a lot of money and either have to wait to retire or retire with a lot less money. So typically as you get older, then they will change the mix. So they'll put more bonds in it. As you can see, they put a lot more bonds as you get closer to retiring. And then again, you typically get paid less, but you have more stability. One thing that you shouldn't base your ideas off of, or exactly how you're going to do this, but might be a good idea in the beginning to look at, is the 1, 5, and 10 year rates of return. So when I started, I think like a lot of people, this is all I looked at because I didn't really understand anything else. So I was confused. Like some of these did really well in some years, some did really poorly in other years. But I think that when you don't know the difference between bonds and stocks and international funds and stuff like that, this might give you a decent idea for what the funds do. So if you look at all of these and they're all, 1% for 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, you probably know that it's not going to pay you very much in the future. It's probably like a bond fund or a money market account, which isn't even invested or something like that. So it might not be a good scenario. I wouldn't base your what you're doing just off this, because like right now the market's hit really hard. That could throw one of these numbers off big time. So just kind of look out for that. If you notice, hey, it's really low for all 3 time frames, maybe don't invest in it. But that's not the biggest thing to look at, but that's just one more thing. Another thing that you want to look at is the asset allocation. So this will tell you what these funds generally invest in. So with these, it says asset allocation. It's just a mix of bonds and stocks. But as you go further down, you can see international funds. So this is invested in a lot of non-US stocks and bonds and stuff like that. As you go further down, small cap funds, so those smaller companies, mid-cap funds, medium-sized companies, large-cap funds, really large companies, balanced funds, so probably a mix of everything. Bond funds, so this is invested in nearly all bonds. You can see over 10 years it returned about 3.3%, 5%, 3%, 4%. So a lot lower numbers than some of these up here. And then stable value bonds, or stable value fund. So again, more bonds here. Money market funds. This isn't even invested, I assume. It's probably just in a money market account, which is like a really high yielding savings account. So that is one thing to look at. What are you investing in? I don't typically invest in international funds. I don't know too much about international stocks. Like I could do a ton of research and learn a lot about international funds, but that's not going to be what I'm going to be good at, because I live here in America. To stay current on all those international funds and what companies are in there and the political landscape and the companies and all that, that would be a lot of effort. Compared to here in America, I know how our economy works for the most part. I know the companies that are here. I can see trends. I hear people talking about companies I'm invested in. It's really easy to stay current with what my investments are because I live here. So that's one reason why I don't typically invest in international funds. But you can do what you like. I just don't like investing in those. Another important thing to look at is the gross expense ratio. So this tells you how expensive it is to invest in this fund. What is the fund going to charge you? My provider, which is Empower Retirement, does pretty well, not giving you funds that are crazy expensive, but some of these will cost more. So they charge you, these funds will charge you to invest in them. This is pretty normal for any kind of funds to do this. If you invest in individual stocks, they don't typically charge you like they do here. So as you can see, 0.11%, 0.05%, these are pretty low, but then you get some 0.83%, 0.76%, 0.75%, and you might think, oh, well, these might give you a lot higher return. Well, not necessarily. As you can see, some of them charge a lot and they're still low. So it charges you 0.65%, and then they return to you negative 1.7%. So you're paying them to lose you money, which of course you're going to lose money at some times, but I don't necessarily want to pay someone to just invest my funds. So as you can see, the three that I'm invested in, 0.04%, 0.04%, then the largest one that I'm invested in is 0.01%. So if I had to guess, I'm probably paying 0.02% because most of it is in this fund. Which is really nice because I barely have to pay to be invested. Some of these other funds, for example, let's say you had $100,000 or something like that in this fund. Not the highest expense fund, but not the lowest. Let's say you're nearing retirement and you had $100,000. This 0.5%, well, that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's $490 a year that you'd have to pay to be invested in them. No matter if they go up or go down, you have to pay $490. So that drags down the gains on your portfolio. That's $40 a month. Imagine now if you have $300,000 or $400,000, you're paying thousands of dollars to be invested in these funds. Another one, this would be $830 a year if you had $100,000. So that's one thing to look out for when investing in these types of funds. So if you want to do more research, you can look at the individual companies in here. So if I click, typically they'll give you like a prospectus or something that tells you what they try to do, how risky it is, where their assets are, what sectors they're invested in, what are their largest holdings. As you can see, a lot of people think that investing in stocks is risky, but I'm invested in the largest companies in the world: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan, Alphabet. These are the bedrock of the US economy, of the world economy, and I don't imagine, I don't want to say this, but I can't imagine a world where Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, JP Morgan, Google, they all go bankrupt. So I think that it's a very risk-averse way of investing, because you're spread out over the 500 largest companies in the world. Pretty much everything you buy that's not that isn't made from home or by someone else like that at a farmer's market, almost everything you buy is from one of these companies. So I think it's a great way to spread out the risk, actually. So that is kind of what I look for in my investments. I want them spread out over really good quality companies. And I want to make sure that I don't spend a lot of money on it. That's kind of what I look for. Your company might have different options than I have. It might not be called Comerica 500 Index Institution. Might be some other kind of index that is related to the 500 largest companies or something else. But not everyone, but a lot of people have options to similar types of funds. So if you have questions, feel free to leave them. Hopefully this helped if you're trying to figure out how you want to invest your 401k, or if you want to invest in a 401k. Again, leave questions below or comments, or if you have any ideas for the future, I'd love to get those from you so that I can make good quality content. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.